Billionaire mocked a black waitress in a dead language. She silenced him in one sentence. 3 hours before Julian Ashcroft would try to destroy her life, Naomi Carter sat in the staff locker room with Cicero's De Officiis balanced on her knees. Her fingers traced the Latin text while her other hand held a protein bar, dinner, probably breakfast too. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting harsh shadows across the page. Officium autem quod ab eo duciter, duty arising from. Carter, Daniel's voice cut through her concentration like a blade. VIP section tonight, table 4, and I need you invisible, understand? Naomi looked up at the manager. Daniel Reeves, 42, thinning hair, eyes that never quite met hers. She'd watched him bow to wealth for 2 years now, his spine growing softer with each black card that crossed his palm. Invisible, she repeated, closing the book. The kind of service where they don't even remember you were there. He shifted his weight. Big spender tonight, connected, just don't be yourself, okay? Don't be yourself, the words settled in her chest like stones. Don't be brilliant, don't be educated, don't be anything but the uniform. Understood, she stood, smoothing her black apron. The fabric was cheaper than the napkins she'd fold tonight. Daniel lingered in the doorway. Your mom doing okay? The question was genuine, she knew. He wasn't cruel, just weak. Stable, thank you for asking. Good, that's good, he left. Naomi tucked Cicero into her locker beside her dog-eared copy of Ovid, her dissertation notes, her acceptance letter to Columbia's PhD program, conditional on maintaining employment, maintaining her mother's insurance, maintaining the careful balance between two worlds. She caught her reflection in the small mirror. 28, eyes too tired for her age, hair pulled back in a tight bun. Dr. Carter, she thought, someday. Tonight she was invisible. She tied her apron tighter and headed for the dining room, unaware that visibility was exactly what the next 4 hours would demand. The Obsidian's entrance doors swept open at exactly 8:15, and the temperature in the room seemed to drop. Julian Ashcroft didn't walk, he processed. 6'2", silver at his temples that cost more to maintain than Naomi's monthly rent, a Tom Ford suit that whispered wealth with every movement. Behind him, a woman in crimson silk hurried to keep pace, her Laubautins clicking anxiously against marble. Naomi watched from her station as Daniel materialized instantly, his professional smile stretched tight. Mr. Ashcroft, what an honor. Table 4, Julian didn't slow. The couple there can move. Daniel's smile flickered. Sir, that table is currently. I'm aware. Julian finally stopped, turning the full weight of his attention on the manager. Marcus Chen, 52, owns 3 dry cleaners in Queens. His wife ordered the prefix. They're celebrating something mundane. Move them. I'm celebrating closing a 9-figure acquisition. He researched the other guests, Naomi realized, to know exactly who he was displacing. She watched Daniel's spine dissolve. Of course, right away. The couple, kind-faced, dressed in their obvious best, were relocated with profuse apologies to a table near the kitchen. Mrs. Chen's disappointed glance at table 4, with its perfect view of the city lights, made Naomi's jaw tighten. Julian settled into the displaced seat like a king claiming a throne. The woman, Lydia, Naomi would learn from the reservation, sat across from him, her smile uncertain. Your server will be right with you, Daniel said, already backing away. Julian didn't acknowledge him. He was studying the wine list, one finger tapping against his Patek Philippe. $20,000 watch, Naomi noted. She'd researched luxury brands for her thesis on Roman imperial display of wealth. The parallels were disturbing. She approached with water, her face professionally neutral. Good evening, welcome to. The 82 Margaux. Julian didn't look up. Decant it, 30 minutes. Of course, she filled Lydia's glass. The woman mouthed a small thank you. Julian's glass remained untouched. He dismissed Naomi before she could reach it. As she walked away, she heard his voice, low and amused. The help here, so eager. Lydia's uncomfortable laugh followed Naomi across the dining room. Invisible, Naomi reminded herself. You need this job, be invisible. But Julian Ashcroft, she was beginning to understand, didn't want invisible. He wanted an audience for his cruelty. The Margaux wasn't right. Too warm, Julian announced, not to Naomi but to the room. His voice carried, heads turned. Did you decant this in the kitchen, near the ovens? Naomi kept her expression neutral. It was decanted in our wine room at 62 degrees, sir. Industry standard for. I didn't ask for a lecture. His eyes finally met hers and she saw it clearly. He was enjoying this. Bring another bottle, colder this time, or is that beyond your capabilities? Breathe, she told herself. This is the performance, let him perform. Right away, sir. The bread came next. Stale, he declared, though Naomi had watched the chef pull it from the oven 20 minutes ago. The olive oil was pedestrian. The butter, room temperature. Does no one here understand proper service? Across from him, Lydia picked at her appetizer, her crimson dress suddenly seeming too bright, too hopeful for this dinner. She tried twice to change the subject to the acquisition Julian had mentioned, but he was focused on his real entertainment, systematic humiliation. Naomi returned with the second bottle of Margaux, actually the same bottle, just colder, as the sommelier had suggested with a knowing look. Julian tasted it, made her wait through a theatrical pause, then nodded. No acknowledgement, no thank you, she might as well have been a machine. Lydia, Julian said, finally turning his attention to his date. Tell me, do you think these people understand what they're serving, or do they just follow instructions like trained animals? Naomi was pouring water 3 feet away, close enough to hear, close enough to be these people he meant. Lydia shifted uncomfortably. Julian, maybe we should. It's a genuine question about education, darling, service economy versus knowledge economy. He leaned back, the leather chair creaking under his casual arrogance. Some people are meant to think, others, his gaze drifted to Naomi then away as if she were wallpaper, are meant to serve those who do. The water glass in Naomi's hand trembled microscopically. She set it down with perfect control. Lock it away, she thought, lock your dignity in a box, you need this. Mom needs this. But something was building in Julian Ashcroft. She could feel it, the restless energy of a bored predator. He'd pushed. And she hadn't broken. So he'd push harder. It happened during the main course. Naomi had just placed Julian's dry-aged ribeye before him, perfect medium rare, resting on a bed of roasted marrow, exactly as ordered. She'd positioned it with the precision of a museum curator. The plate rotated so the garnish faced him at 10 o'clock. He cut into it, chewed, swallowed, then without looking up, overcooked. It wasn't, they both knew it. Lydia knew it. She'd stopped eating entirely, her fork frozen Medea. I can have the chef prepare another, Naomi began. No, Julian set down his knife with deliberate care. I'd rather not waste another hour of my evening on incompetence. The dining room had gone quiet. Other servers had slowed their movements. Even the couple by the window had stopped talking, their attention drawn to table 4 like witnesses to an accident. Julian seemed to feel the audience coalescing. A smile played at his lips. Lydia, he said, his voice dropping into an intimate register that somehow carried further. Did I mention I studied at Oxford, Magdalen College, classical studies before I switched to economics? You mentioned it, yes. Lydia's voice was small. Latin, Greek, some Sanskrit, the foundation of Western thought. He swirled his wine, watching the light play through it. Dead languages now, of course, only relevant to academics and the properly educated. Naomi was turning to leave. Every instinct screamed go now before. Aspis hanc servam, Julian said suddenly, switching languages with the fluid ease of someone showing off a party trick. Naomi froze mid-step. Bestium ad onus portandum factam, his voice dripped with theatrical pomposity. Verba me non comprehendit, cogitea ni dicam. A woman at table 6 gasped softly. An older gentleman looked confused. Lydia stared at her plate. Julian continued, warming to his performance. Servitutum suam ni intelligit, quantum ego super eam sto, et e ni sit. He paused, took a sip of wine, let the moment expand. Then, in English loud enough for everyone, the beautiful thing about dead languages, Lydia, is that they're truly dead. No one speaks them. No one understands them. His eyes finally found Naomi, still standing there, which means one can say absolutely anything. The trap was set. He'd called her a slave, a beast of burden, said she couldn't think, couldn't understand how far above her he stood. He'd done it in Latin, the language of emperors and oppressors, confident in his superiority. He expected silence, confusion, submission. Instead, Naomi turned around. Her eyes met his, and Julian Ashcroft saw something that made his smile falter. Certainty. Ignorantia tua, Naomi said, her voice quiet but crystalline, non est virtus. The dining room stopped breathing. Julian blinked. What? Naomi stepped closer to the table, her posture shifting from service to something else entirely. Something that had been locked away in the staff room with Cicero and Ovid, with dissertation notes and deferred dreams. Your ignorance, she translated in perfect, accentless English, is not a virtue. She watched comprehension dawn on his face like a slow-motion collision. You said, she continued, switching back to Latin, her pronunciation classical and flawless, aspis hanc servam bestiam ad onus portandum factam. Look at this slave, a beast made for carrying burdens. She paused. Though you should have used famulam if you meant a female servant specifically. Servam is slightly archaic in that context. Lydia's mouth opened. A server near the bar dropped a napkin. Julian's face had gone pale. You. Verba me non comprehendit, cogitea ni dicam, Naomi continued, her voice gaining strength. She doesn't understand my words, much less thinking, except you used the present tense when the subjunctive would have been more appropriate for a hypothetical statement. She tilted her head. Oxford, you said, Magdalene, they've really let their standards slip. Someone laughed, a single bark of shocked amusement from across the room, quickly stifled. And my personal favourite, Naomi said, her eyes locked on Julian's, servitutum suam ni intelligit, quantum ego super eam sto, et e ni sit. She doesn't understand her servitude, how far I stand above her, and she doesn't even know it. The silence was so complete Naomi could hear the kitchen exhaust fan 2 rooms away. But I do know, she said, switching back to English. I know you used the accusative case when you meant the vocative. I know your conjugation of comprehendia was sloppy. I know you're trying to impress your date with an education you clearly didn't absorb. She smiled, and it was not a kind smile. And I know that calling someone a slave in a dead language doesn't make you sophisticated, it makes you a coward. Julian's hand clenched around his wine glass, a vein pulsed in his temple. Melius taquises, Naomi finished softly. It would have been better had you stayed silent. She turned to Lydia, her voice gentle. Your dinner is excellent, I hope you enjoy it. Then she walked away, her legs shaking beneath her apron, her heart hammering against her ribs, knowing she'd just destroyed everything, her job, her mother's insurance, her carefully balanced life, for 60 seconds of dignity. Behind her, she heard Julian's chair scrape violently against the floor. Manager. Julian's voice cracked across the dining room like a whip. Naomi was 10 feet away, near the service station, when she heard it. Her hands were still trembling from adrenaline, from the wild, terrifying freedom of having finally spoken. Daniel materialized as if summoned by dark magic, his face already arranged in an apology. Mr. Ashcroft, I'm so sorry if there's been. Where's my card? Julian was standing now, patting his pockets with increasingly theatrical panic. My American Express black card, it was right here on the table. Naomi's blood went cold. I'm sure it's just, Daniel began, but Julian cut him off. I placed it on the table for the check, right here. He pointed to the white tablecloth, then his eyes, calculated, vicious, slid to Naomi, before she leaned over to correct my Latin. The implication hung in the air like poison gas. Sir, I'm certain there's been a misunderstanding, Daniel said, but his voice had lost all authority. He was already glancing at Naomi, a question forming in his eyes that felt like betrayal. Check her pockets. Julian's voice dropped to something quieter, more dangerous. Or I call the police right now. Credit card theft, that's a felony, isn't it? Lydia stood abruptly. Julian, this is insane. You're upset because she... Stay out of this. He didn't even look at her. His entire focus was on Naomi, and she could see it clearly now. This wasn't about a credit card. This was about power, about reasserting dominance. About punishing her for the unforgivable sin of being right. The other diners were watching openly now. Mrs. Chen had her hand over her mouth. The couple by the window had their phones out. Daniel turned to Naomi, and the look in his eyes was pure desperation. Naomi, can you show us your pockets, just to clear this up? She stared at him. You know me, Daniel, 2 years, I've never... Please, his voice cracked. Just show him, prove him wrong. Prove him wrong, the words burned. She had to prove her innocence. Julian merely had to accuse. Naomi's hands moved to her apron pockets, empty except for her order pad and a pen. She pulled them out, held them up, then her uniform pockets, also empty. The break room, Julian said immediately. Check her locker, that's what they do, isn't it? Stash things until their shift ends. Mr. Ashcroft, I really don't think, Daniel started. Then I'm calling the police. Julian pulled out his phone. Let them check, let them bring the K9 units, whatever it takes. Naomi watched him dial, or pretend to dial, she couldn't tell which, but she knew the truth suddenly with absolute certainty. There was no card to find. He'd hidden it himself. This was a frame-up, elegant and simple. And she had no way to prove it. Daniel's hand touched Naomi's elbow, gentle but insistent. Let's just check the locker room, okay, then this whole thing gets resolved. Naomi didn't move. He's lying. I know you'd never. Then don't do this. She looked at him directly, letting him see all 2 years of their professional relationship. The double shifts she'd covered, the holidays she'd worked, the perfect record. Don't let him do this. Daniel's face crumpled. For a moment she thought she'd reached him. Then he said, if you've got nothing to hide, it'll take 2 minutes. The words hit her like a physical blow. If you've got nothing to hide, the oldest trick in the book, compliance masquerading as innocence. No, her voice was steady despite the tremor in her chest. You want to search me, you get a warrant. You call the police, let them search. But I'm not performing my own humiliation for him. She gestured toward Julian, who was watching with barely concealed satisfaction. Naomi, please. You know what he said to me. She was aware of the audience, aware this would probably go viral if those phones were recording, but she didn't care anymore. He called me a slave, in Latin, because he thought I was too stupid to understand, and when I proved him wrong he decided to destroy me. She turned to face Julian. That's what this is, punishment for not knowing my place. Oh, this is rich. Julian laughed, but it sounded forced. Playing the victim card. I'm the victim of theft and somehow I'm the villain. Show me the card, Naomi said. If it's missing, show me your last transaction, your digital wallet, anything. I don't have to prove anything to you. But I have to prove everything to you. The standoff stretched. Daniel looked between them, a man drowning in a situation far above his pay grade. The other diners had gone silent, even the kitchen noise seemed muted. Then Lydia spoke, her voice quiet but clear. Julian, your jacket. He turned to her, irritated. What? Your jacket, she pointed to where it hung on his chair. You put your wallet in the inside pocket when we sat down. I saw you, check there. For a microsecond something flickered across Julian's face, not quite panic but close. I already checked. Check again, Lydia said, and there was steel in her voice now. Please. Julian picked up his jacket slowly. He made a show of checking the outer pockets first. Then, reluctantly, he reached into the inside pocket. His hand emerged empty. But Naomi saw it, the subtle movement of his fingers, the way he'd pressed something deeper into the lining. He'd hidden the card in his own jacket, in a place where it could be found, later if needed, or overlooked to strengthen his accusation. Nothing, he announced, so unless you're suggesting I robbed myself. I saw you, a new voice said. Everyone turned. An older woman had risen from table 12. Naomi had noticed her earlier, late 60s, silver hair in an elegant bun, dining alone with a book. She'd been so quiet Naomi had almost forgotten she was there. I'm sorry, Julian said, his voice hard. I saw you. The woman walked forward with the kind of confidence that comes from decades of not having to prove yourself. When you first sat down, you placed your credit card in your inside jacket pocket, your left inside pocket specifically. Julian's face had gone carefully blank. I think you're mistaken. I'm not. She stopped 3 feet from the table. I'm a behavioral psychologist. Observing people is quite literally my profession. You placed the card there while speaking to the manager, a dominance gesture, showing you had the resources to commandeer the table. This is absurd. Who are you two? Dr. Evelyn Whitmore. She said it without emphasis, but Naomi's breath caught. The Dr. Whitmore. She'd cited her work in her dissertation proposal. Whitmore was a legend in academic circles, Harvard professor emerita, MacArthur Genius Grant, author of seminal works on power dynamics and social hierarchy. And she'd been sitting 15 feet away the entire time. I don't care if you're the Queen of England, Julian snapped. This woman stole from me and I'm not going to be. Your jacket, Dr. Whitmore interrupted calmly. The card is in the lining. You slipped it there approximately 40 seconds ago when everyone was focused on the young woman. It was quite clever, actually. The misdirection of having already checked the pocket. The room was electric with tension. Someone's phone was definitely recording now. Naomi could see the red light. Julian's lawyer brain seemed to engage. That's an insane accusation. Why would I steal my own card? You didn't steal it, you hid it, there's a difference. Dr. Whitmore turned to Daniel. If you reach into the jacket carefully, feeling along the lining where it meets the inner pocket, you'll find it slipped between the fabric layers. An easy place to miss during a casual search. Daniel looked like he wanted to dissolve into the floor. Mr. Ashcroft, perhaps if you could just... Don't touch my property, Julian said sharply, but his hand had moved unconsciously toward the jacket, protective. Then you check, Dr. Whitmore said. Right now, in front of everyone, feel along the lining. The silence stretched. Naomi watched Julian's face cycle through calculations, deny, deflect, attack, retreat. He was trapped. If he refused, he looked guilty. If he checked and the card was there. Fine, he snatched up the jacket. This is ridiculous, but fine. His hand went to the pocket, but this time he couldn't hide what he was doing. His fingers probed the lining. And Naomi saw the exact moment they found it. The card, exactly where Dr. Whitmore had said it would be. Julian pulled out his hand, empty. Nothing, he started to say. But the black edge of the American Express card was visible, protruding slightly from the lining where his fingers had disturbed it. Dr. Whitmore pointed. There. The dining room erupted. Not in sound, there was no applause, no cheers, but in a collective exhale, a shifting of weight, as if everyone had been holding their breath underwater and finally surfaced. Daniel reached over, his hand shaking, and pulled the card free from Julian's jacket lining. The black metal caught the light. American Express black card, exactly as described. Julian Ashcroft's name embossed in silver. I don't understand how that... Julian's voice had lost all its authority. He looked at the card at Dr. Whitmore at the phone's recording. Someone must have. This is a setup. You placed it there, Dr. Whitmore said, not unkindly. After Miss Carter corrected your Latin, you felt humiliated, understandably, given the public nature of the exchange, and you reacted by attempting to destroy her credibility and livelihood. She paused. It's a classic power restoration behavior. I've seen it 1,000 times in my research. I didn't. Julian looked at Lydia desperately. Tell them I wouldn't. Lydia was already gathering her purse. I think I'll get my own car home. Her voice was quiet, but in the silence it carried. Don't call me, Julian. She walked out. Her crimson dress disappeared through the entrance like a flag of surrender. Julian turned to Daniel. This is your fault. Your staff attacked a paying customer and you allowed some random woman to. Dr. Whitmore is hardly random, Daniel said, and there was something new in his voice. Not quite strength, but exhaustion with weakness. And you tried to frame my employee for felony theft. I want to speak to your owner. I'll have this place shut down. I'll sue for defamation for... Please leave. Daniel's voice was firmer now. Your meal is comped, but you need to leave. For a moment, Naomi thought Julian might actually fight. Might escalate this into something physical, something that would justify calling actual police. But he looked around at the faces watching him, disgusted, contemptuous, some openly delighted at his downfall, and something in him collapsed. He grabbed his jacket, his wallet, and walked toward the exit with whatever dignity he could salvage. At the door, he turned back. You'll regret this, he said, looking at Naomi. All of you. Then he was gone. The room remained silent for another 3 heartbeats. Then Mrs. Chen started clapping, slow, deliberate. The older gentleman joined her, then the couple by the window. Within seconds, the entire dining room was applauding. Naomi stood frozen, unable to process it. Her legs felt weak. Her hands were still shaking. Dr. Whitmore approached her, that same calm smile on her face. Your Latin was excellent, she said quietly under the applause. Truly excellent. May I ask where you studied? Naomi's voice came out rough. Columbia undergraduate. I'm working on my PhD, classical studies, when I'm not. She gestured at her apron. I see. Dr. Whitmore reached into her purse, pulled out a business card. I'm giving a lecture at Columbia next month, Intersections of Language and Power. I could use a research assistant, someone who understands both the theoretical frameworks and the lived reality. She pressed the card into Naomi's hand. The position pays, well, and you wouldn't need to wear an apron unless you wanted to. Naomi looked down at the card, then up at this woman who had saved her. Why, she whispered, why did you help me? Dr. Whitmore's smile turned sad. Because 40 years ago I was you. Different restaurant, different language. He spoke French, thought I was just the colored girl clearing tables, but same story. She squeezed Naomi's shoulder. We take care of our own, call me tomorrow. She returned to her table, left cash for her bill, and departed as quietly as she'd observed. Daniel approached Naomi cautiously. I'm sorry, I should have believed you immediately. Naomi looked at him. The apology was real but insufficient. Yeah, you should have. Do you want to go home? I can cover your section. She considered it. Every part of her wanted to walk out, to never wear this apron again. But Mrs. Chen was waving her over, wanting to order dessert. The couple by the window needed coffee, and Naomi's mother's medication was due for refill on Friday. No, she said, tucking Dr. Whitmore's card carefully into her pocket. I'll finish my shift. She turned back to the dining room, her head high, no longer invisible. Behind her, Daniel whispered, You're going to be something special, Naomi Carter. She already was.